Let's begin with the shocking details that have come in. It has shocked the entire world. Author Salman Rushdie attacked moments before his lecture on stage in southwestern New York. Latest reports suggest that after being stabbed, Salman Rushdie is on ventilator. Now, some of the reports also suggest that his arm and liver are injured and that he may lose an eye. The attacker is said to have targeted Rushdie and an interviewer, while Rushdie was immediately escorted to an area hospital by a helicopter. A state trooper assigned to the event immediately took the suspect into custody. Now, these are the details that have just come in. The suspect is being investigated. New York State Police said that Rushdie suffered an apparent stab wound on his neck. The interviewer is also said to have been injured, minor injuries that he sustained on the head. Now, it should be mentioned that the celebrated author had received threats in the past too over his novel, The Satanic Verses. And these are the details that have now come in. And now investigations also looking into whether there is a link between the threats that he has previously received. A bounty of $3 million was also fixed for anyone who kills him back then.
And so it is heartbreaking to learn that within the last hour, a prominent individual, Salman Rushdie, was attacked on a stage in Western New York. Just before he was about to give a speech. He is alive. He has been transported, airlifted to safety. But here's an individual who has spent decades speaking truth to power, someone who's been out there. He's getting the care he needs at a local hospital. I'll be giving more information on the identity of the perpetrator and the case that will be brought in that part of the state. So I just wanted to share that with you because it hits right here. It hits all of us. But we are undeterred then. We are undeterred in our commitment to make sure that we call it out, we condemn what happened, we condemn all violence, and we want people to feel that freedom to speak and to write truth. And I'll continue to protect that every single day as my governor, as I'm your governor.
Now, let's also listen to some of the reactions that are coming in from Salman Rushdie's neighbors on the events that happened before this attack. Listen in.
I would never even consider someone like that living in this neighborhood. You know, it's unbelievable. You know, a neighborhood like this.
Totally shocked over what happened to this town. Believe me, I thought that maybe somebody got shot. I'm hearing all these helicopters. I didn't know what happened. I lived right around the corner. Terrible, terrible. Really, it's frightening. Very frightening.
Senior editor Shinjoy Chaudhary is joining us live with more details on this. Shinjoy, this is an attack that has shocked the entire world. It brings back memories of the threats that the celebrated author has received in the past. Have the police officials established whether he was targeted again because of his book, The Satanic Verses?
Well, that's the question that needs to be answered, because the Satanic Verses was written in about 1988, which is nearly 35 years ago. Now, the attempted assassin, Mati Haddad, is only 24 years old. The book was published so much before he was even born. Now, the fact that he has so much rage in him to kill an author, to try and kill an author who wrote a book 35 years ago, is really something that comes up for question. As far as the interrogation of Mati Haddad is concerned, that is still going on. We don't know as yet what the motive of the attempted assassin, the assailant, is. But it is true that Salman Rushdie at least is progressing. Yes, he could well lose an eye. Yes, he has a damaged liver. Yes, he was stabbed 2 or 3 times. But Rushdie is likely to survive this, is what we are hearing. And primarily because there were helicopters which were at hand, which quickly took him to a hospital where he has got emergency treatment. Rushdie is perhaps one of the greatest living authors today. His earlier books, at least, will be remembered all this while. Shame is perhaps an outstanding book. It's not discussed as other books, but it is a remarkably outstanding book. There are other books he has written, Joseph Anton, which he wrote more recently. It is literally dedicated to of his favorite authors. Conrad and Chekhov is also an outstanding book. So he is a great author. And the only question that comes up, someone who has been threatened for so long by so many people, there were the fatwas 4 years ago. Was there enough security at the function where he was stabbed? That is a question that comes up.
That's right. The details that, the police officials have as of now on the attacker, it's very sketchy, isn't it, Trinjoy? Because the only details coming in is that he had pro-Iran views, he was an Islamist. No further details of the accused yet. Quite surprising and shocking that there was no security presence there. Of course, the attacker was subdued within seconds, but the fact that he was able to go on stage and stab Rushdie more than about 5 to 6 times is absolutely shocking.
Yes, undoubtedly, that is the question that comes up. That where were all these security officials who should have been close to Salman Rushdie? And if there was security, what were they doing? And if there weren't, then maybe there should have been at least a few people near Salman Rushdie to ensure that this kind of attack did not happen. Of course, no one imagined this would happen. But nevertheless, here is a man who has been protected by the police, has received the highest levels of security ever since that fatwa happened in the late 80s, over 30 years ago. He should have at least had some security around him.
That's right. In fact, it has, sent ripples not just across the world, but in India as well. In fact, the Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has also expressed shock over the incident. He took to Twitter as well, and that's what he has tweeted, utterly horrified and shocked by what has happened. This is the tweet that Shashi Tharoor has put out after the attack on Salman Rushdie. So political repercussions in India as well, questions also being raised, because it's not just a lone incident that has happened with Salman Rushdie. Similar questions also being raised on whether such concerns should be raised on such radicalism in the country as well, isn't it, Trinjoy? Because questions are being raised on the Congress party. It was the first to ban the book in India, and if similar incidents take place in India, is that the same amount of shock that will be expressed, one, and secondly, for the kind of security that is required in the face of such threats?
Satanic verses was definitely banned in India. I mean, there is no dispute about that, and that was done a long time ago. That apart, he has received a lot of hate mail, and there have been people who have strongly opposed him for years and years. But it remains, the fact remains that he's a great author. He is an absolutely great author. Bedtime's Children, Shame, Joseph, and I mean, every book of his is virtually a gem. So to attack a man who is 75 years old and who has produced such great writing is actually very, very questionable. The point is, where were the security people? That is a question that comes up. And now we will have to see how long it takes for Salman Rushdie, who is an elderly man, to actually recover. Because these wounds, while not life-threatening, but are certainly damaging. Can you imagine a damaged eye, a damaged liver, 3 or 4 stab wounds? All of this adds up to a lot. Not to forget the sheer mental problems that he will face, because he has already faced this for years and years, lived under a fatwa and all that. And now, after all these years, 35 years, he actually gets stabbed by a 24-year-old man who wasn't even born when the book was written and when the fatwa came up.
That's right. In fact, these are the concerns that have been raised, because it was more than 3 decades ago that a fatwa was issued against him. Remember, he had also apologized, after which he, of course, did a turnaround. But does the threat still remain? So that's the question. Srinjoy, thank you for joining us with those details. We'll track the latest updates on that big story of the day.
From a channel that